So we are the Digital Overlay Group. This week we conducted 11 interviews and got in touch with our advisor. Our how might we question is, how might we remove the digital blind spots of an operational environment for an officer to be more aware?
So this week we got to talk with a lot more contacts, and we got a lot of great information. But from there we found a few common themes, and those 3 themes summed up was the idea of having 5 different layers. We want to have a persona layer, cyber layer, a logical layer, a physical layer, and a geographic layer, so that we can get a lot of information all at once into something that flows through all of the contacts. We also are thinking more of a data supply chain type thing, where we want to think of who our customer is and then who are they thinking of as the customer, as well as be aware of a layer of communications networks that multiplies and multiplies as you get more information.
So our customer discovery methods, we came up with a few hypotheses for this week. To start with, some of the military uses of our possible product are outdated, and we found this to be confirmed in the military standard 2525 C and B symbolism. And so what that is there's these symbols that the military uses that are color coordinated, either red, blue, for a friendly enemy, etc. And we think we could integrate that with our possible solution. And another hypothesis that we created was we need to be able to create something to collect the data. And we found that to be not confirmed. And what we mean by that is essentially if the data is there, there's going to be ways for us to track it. So we need to design something that creates a way to better organize the data and then be able to use that data in a simplistic way. And an hour in the life, so we are hoping to go up to Fort Meade in the next week or so in order to actually realize what it is like to spend a day in the life as at this base. I think it's the boss, right? All right.
Okay, wait, go back.
This is essentially our end user, which would be an officer in the Army. And this picture right here is those symbolism, the symbols, the military standard 2525 B and C. You can see they're color coordinated: red, enemy, blue for friendly. Which we got that from Esri. So.
Okay, with this, here's our mission model canvas. As you can see, we've interviewed everyone from colonels to some people from the AWG, the intelligence community, as well as some private sector companies that all have backgrounds in either GIS or digital overlays. Each have different value propositions and gave us some key features that would provide value for them. For example, one of the intelligence people suggested that we could enter keywords or ways to simplify those GIS maps and only include layers that we want to include. Other ways, it could be automated potentially with the use of algorithms or other potential computer science terms. I don't know exactly what those are though.
In our information acquisition and processing, we made extensive use of the value proposition canvas, creating one for all of our, or for the constituents we interviewed. We filled it out with our knowledge on the subject beforehand and then revised it after each interview. The one here, for example, is from contact number 9, who is a former colonel and now works as a CEO for a company that deploys network solutions for the Army.
So our beneficiary archetype is going to be typically a 23 to 27-year-old officer. Some values that are important for these members: professionalism, motivation, seeing the big picture, and being able to make decisions fast and smart.
So when talking about kind of the big blocks involved in the solution and the problem, we kind of have the algorithms and keywords that Mark hit on, as well as when we talk about any type of data, digital data could also be big data of any sorts. And we're talking about kind of one of our users saying we want people to be able to quickly log in and log out without having to kind of be bogged down by the whole system. So there would have to be some type of user account admin / security. And then as well as not just kind of if you ever used Waze, not just big data that's already out there, but allowing the users themselves to be like sensors and input data. So if they're in an area, they could either snap a picture, put in some type of, a few words, but those little bits of data could mean something if kind of like analyzed and put together. And so a main user would kind of input, like, let's say if I'm, an example would be, I am doing a mission that is super secretive at night, and any type of alert to the enemy or anybody else would kind of like throw my mission off. So if I put in keywords, not like my mission title, but keywords such as like the most highest level of security, during the night, like zero visibility, then kind of not everyone's a data expert, but those keywords would kind of like, when you search Google and all of a sudden you're in a search engine optimization, kind of they get a good hit on whatever you want, depending on whatever that search is. That would set off kind of like a chain of events saying, let's search all the social media pictures through algorithms. Let's search all the Twitter feed, which certain companies already do, to see, did someone all of a sudden just tweet in the same area that my team is operating in, giving off a certain cue of something going on. And all of a sudden, is there a cell phone tower nearby that's all of a sudden just went from like 2G, 3G, and those types of kind of like increases in red flags. And then if that trips like a data alarm, sending that kind of officer or that commander an alarm sound. And then that increases awareness for informed decision making. So kind of like one like example, more concrete idea would be captures were kind of invented when books had to be digitized. So the inventor, I believe, was from, I don't want to say it name by wrongly referencing it, but he was able to say, take a picture of an image and then, talk about 3, 2, 1.
It's Nat.
Yep.
You're good.
But
Can't hear C-side, but it's telling you you're done.
visualizing in the third dimension through kind of terms like this, which were coined by Dr. Dave Warner, who actually is a neuroscientist and coined this type of way of visualizing in the third dimension. He actually ended up starting a company which is in Arlington, Virginia, which one of our contacts is putting us in touch with, so we can hopefully visit the company in Arlington. Kind of have a good visit there.
Guys.
Yep.
I gotta start the timer on the feedback. Can you go back to your hex office, please? One thing I really like about this, and I saw it in some other slides, you're not just confirming everything you thought. And to me, that really says that you're getting out there, you're digging into the problem and listening to what people are telling you. So I saw that as a good sign for what you're doing.
And your workflow, you don't need to flip to it, but your workflow needs to be you need to think about it from the end user perspective, right? So who is using it? What do they do on a daily or semi-daily or in this use case scenario? So how is the information coming in? How and when do they make decisions? What do they need to report? Who do they need to report their decisions to? And how do those decisions get turned into action? So you talked a lot about sort of the data space. But what does the user space look like? What does their day-to-day world look like?
So more in like instead of this big space, focus on this.
Right. How do people interact with this?
A clear use case scenario would be really helpful. A punchy one at the beginning, just to give us a sense of the problem space, would be really useful. Because you're moving around all sorts of domains here, and I'm not technical enough, but I know that there's a lot of distance between some of these domains in terms of the information architecture stuff, and I want to get a more kind of tangible sense of what it is that you're actually trying to produce.
I want just add one comment to that diagram. I think it's good. I mean, I like it. I just want to offer another perspective. Because your project is data intensive. So you might want to introduce a data flow diagram, so you're keeping track of the source, the processing, and as well as the destination and interpretation of that data, using that as your point of view angle. I'll give you another perspective.
Any feedback from our WebEx participants? If you guys could go back and have answered one question that you asked that you didn't feel was answered well, any thoughts on that? Anything you wish you could have gotten more information on that you asked?
Wait,
Yes, very good. In an interview or something that you were doing this week and you asked questions, you wish you had gotten a better answer, a more robust answer, or a more descriptive answer, something.
Maybe some of the current technologies that they use and types of like GIS systems that they are trying to implement, but a lot of the information is classified, so we kind of try and nick at the corners there, and we run into a lot of roadblocks on that aspect.
One of the feedback our mentors have given us is to make objectives for your interviews, and you can do that by reflecting on what you heard and what is still missing and where you want to go with it and where the pain points are taking you. So before you call somebody, think about the direction you want to take that conversation, right? Because in 10 minutes, it could go a lot of places, and if you don't have direction, it can squirrel a lot of places too. So making some objectives for this cause are going to help you hone in.
Is there any big aha moment from this week? Like that the team were like, breakthrough. Sorry.
Finding, finding this in the sense of like mapping the the fourth dimension of digital. There's the big data part, and even like if you're able to analyze all the big data, you don't know. There's an example that one of our contacts said that he's a captain in the RNO, and someone was showing him a very powerful analytics tool, and they put all these kind of data sets together, and they were able to create some visual representation of something. And he said, I don't even know what I was looking at. So it took someone else to come in and say, like, oh, this is what this means. And that example showed that was like related to a crime ring. But then, let's say if you were in, let's say, in a war zone, and you think that there's this school that apparently like all the kids are supposed to be going to, but all of a sudden through kind of like looking at Instagram pictures, usages of cell phones in a certain area, all the kids happen to be going to this one school, this one house in the basement. Like that's like a common place where they're all intersecting, and none of them are actually going to the school. So now you've identified where most of the kids are actually going to school and what the power structure of that person who owns that home is. But then how do you represent that? And Dr. Dave, one of them coined this way is, so these rings, let's say it's geolocation based, these rings at a certain, like, if you look at it like a clock, he has them representing like a certain like demographic. So at like, I think it was like at 3 o'clock represents females, and then the size of that actual ball at that 3 o'clock position represents population. But on top of the ball, you can also just have another ring that represents women.
Your time is way up, just so you know.
Follow that for next week. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
That I think is really powerful.
We look forward to hearing much more about it. Thank you. 1, 2, 3.